Hey everybody, welcome back to the Race Fight Smokehouse and Grill. And we're cooking this choice brisket on the Weber Smokey Mountain using the FireDial. Let's go! So I recently got the FireDial and I cooked up some ribs and they came out fantastic. Those drippings hitting the FireDial itself made for great flavor. So I'm wondering what it will do for a brisket. So we're gonna cook a brisket on the top rack, FireDial down below, no water pan whatsoever. First thing we're gonna do is get this brisket trimmed and seasoned, and then we're gonna fire up the Smoky Mountain. So let's go get this trimmed up. It's gonna be a quick basic trim. If you want more details on how I normally trim and cook a brisket, I have a brisket for beginners video. I'll put that in the description below. So we're just gonna do a quick trim here and get it seasoned up and then get the Weber fired up. Always like opening the package on the back end. That way if you score anything, you're gonna score the fat and not the meat side. You wanna try to keep that meat intact as possible. Gonna pull some foil off, so when I get the trimmings, I'm gonna set them to the side. We'll save those for either sausage or tallow. I have a lot of tallow now, so we're probably gonna save it for some sausage. Okay, let's do this quick trim here. Just get these big hunks of fat off. You wanna get this aerodynamic, and anything that's poking out, you wanna get rid of. Any of this hard fat here, just go ahead and cut that off. Again, this trim is just going to be for backyard kind of stuff. This isn't any competition or professional restaurant type thing. I'm just doing a quick trim. I'll take all these ugly edges off the side here. I'm gonna kind of a wrap around here. We'll be taking care of that other side here in a minute. Any loose flaps, get rid of them. This is real thin, so we're gonna end up just wrapping this around here too. I'm still anticipating this Smoky Mountain to cook hotter like it did with the ribs I did. And you can check out that ribs video. I'll put a link down here as well for that. But those ribs came out great, so I'm excited to see how this is gonna come out. Yeah, this is mostly fat over here, so we're just gonna keep knocking that off. And I'm starting to like how this looks. Got some great marbling, even though this is a choice brisket. I liked it because it was really floppy, which you know is gonna break down nice. Cut the mohawk down a little bit here, just a little bit. That's gonna be it for the trimming, and I'm gonna try to cook this exactly like I cook all my other briskets, fat side up, which I know goes a lot against what a lot of people say, because you wanna have that fat on the bottom to protect from the heat, but I'm gonna try to offset that. I'm not gonna use a lot of coals on this cook. I'm gonna try to maintain the temp down what I normally do to see if we can regulate it that way. So I'm still gonna cook this fat side up, because when I slice it, I love seeing that little fat ring on top. Maybe it burns the bottom, we're gonna find out. This is an experiment, that's why I didn't go get a prime piece. I just went with a choice piece. Simple seasoning. We're gonna hit a kosher salt. I got some of that Pork Mafia 16 mesh black pepper and Lowry seasoned salt. Get all sides, of course. Just a quick dusting of the seasoned salt. Do that side first, because that's gonna be your bottom side down. Now this is gonna be your presentation side, so we're gonna make this look pretty here. We got the salt again. We got that pepper. And we have the final dust of that seasoned salt. May look like a lot of seasoning, but this started as a 13-pound brisket. Could take a lot of seasoning. So we're gonna let this set up, let the seasoning really start to adhere to this brisket. And while we're waiting, we're gonna go ahead and get this Smoky Mountain fired up. Let's go over to the grill. To start the Weber Smokey Mountain up, I'm gonna use far less coals than I normally do. For a brisket cook, I would normally pack the bottom with charcoal and then throw a small chimney on top and just let it burn. This time, because it burns a little hotter with the FireDial, I'm actually just gonna start with a fewer amount of coals. I'm actually gonna light the fire inside the Smoky Mountain with a wax cube. I like using the Weber wax cubes, very simple to do. So let's fire this up. I have some chunks of wood in there for extra smoke. But you can see that there's not a full amount of coals in there, which I'm hoping is going to maintain a lower temperature. I'm still gonna try to keep it between that 275, even 300. That range is what I'm shooting for. I'm gonna have the bottom vents barely cracked open as well. As barely open as you can get them. Because again, last time I had them maybe about a quarter of the way open for the rib cook, and it still shot up there at times where it got up to 330 or so. I don't want it that hot for the brisket. So we're gonna keep these pretty closed, the top vent pretty much closed. Once this lump coal gets lit, we're going to put the top on, let the grill come to temp, and then get the brisket on. We'll be right back when it's time to put the brisket on. We got the grill rating right about 200, a little over, so we're gonna put the brisket on right now and get started cooking. So let's get this brisket on. So we're gonna set that brisket up real nice, right in the center there. It's not too close to the edge where the FireDial isn't, because there is a little gap all around the FireDial where the heat comes up as well. So we're gonna move that in. We're going to temp probe in the flat, because that's the part we're worried about drying out the most, so we really wanna keep an eye on that. I'm gonna leave an extra probe just laying out here to kind of monitor temperature of the grill. And that's it. We're closing her up, and we're gonna check in a couple hours. I'm gonna keep an eye on the temperature to make sure it's not spiking up or anything crazy's going on. So we'll be back in a couple hours when it's time to check and spritz and see how it's looking. Let's close her up. We're at 3 hours in on this brisket. I have not done anything. I haven't checked it. I haven't opened it. I'm gonna take a quick look here at the coals. They still seem to be doing okay. We're currently running at around 250-ish, which I'm surprised at. I'm happy with that. I thought I was gonna be running a lot higher with this FireDial, but it shows you that with some decent fire control, by managing those vents, by not dumping a ton of coals in there, you can keep this FireDial at a nice 250 smoking zone. So we're gonna check the brisket right now, give it a spritz, see how we're looking. Let's go take a look. Yeah, this thing is looking good, coming along nicely. You could hear that dripping. I don't know if you caught that on camera, but those juices are dripping and hitting the FireDial, and it smells wonderful from the beef drippings down onto that FireDial, giving off a great flavor. I'm excited to try this in a little bit. And then we're just giving this a spritz. This is just water, that's it. Get that surface a little more hydrated, make sure it doesn't dry out too much. Closing her back up. We'll be back in a couple hours, time to check again. Unless that temperature gets up to where we wanna wrap it, and that's when we'll wrap it. So let's close her up. And currently the internal temp of that flat's reading about 157. Typically we're looking for somewhere between 170 up to 180 before we wrap it. We do that to make sure that the bark's set up, we got all the color and flavor that we're looking for before it's time to really push that cook along. We want to get somewhere between, 170, 180 typically before we wrap it. We do that to make sure that bark's really set up and where we want it, because wrapping it too early, you could lead to washing out your bark. So we're gonna let this go until we get to that nice bark setup that we like, and we'll show you what that is here in a little bit before we wrap it. We'll be back when it's time to wrap it. We're at about 5.5 hours of smoke time. I did throw a little bit more of the lump charcoal in. We were starting to run low, temps were dipping a little bit. We were anticipating that because we didn't put as much charcoal in as normal. So let's go take a quick look, see what the brisket's looking like. Let's get some internal temps, see if we're ready to wrap. This brisket's looking gorgeous, and it's something that, you hear that? That's the grease dripping from the brisket and hit that FireDial. And that smell that we have out here is phenomenal. It smells different. You still have the smokiness from the wood and the chunks of charcoal, but you get this cooking beef flavor. We've been at that 250 to 260 temperature of the grill the whole time. So we've been able to maintain this temperature really nice. Now let's check some internal temp. Got 178, okay, we're getting close. Yep, so we're gonna wrap here. So we got temps in the 180s or so in the flat, still a little bit more to go in the point, but we're at that time right now where it's rendering down a lot. So let's go get this wrapped up. So we got our butcher paper set up. We're gonna give this a quick spritz of water just to make it a little bit more pliable as we're wrapping. This brisket is looking amazing. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. This FireDial, this may be it. This may be it for me with the FireDial. If I can make great briskets with the FireDial, we're in business here. Gosh, it smells so good. Got one over, and then I like just flipping her. And I like to do my briskets all the way through, fat side up. So right now I flipped it once, that's fat side down. We're gonna come back over. This is fat side up now, and then we're just gonna tuck this away. Get that in there nice and tight. Back on the smoker. We got this back on the grill now. We're gonna let it go, and we're gonna start checking tenderness at about 195 degrees internal. So we're gonna come back out here with our temp probe and check around, make sure that it's probing tender. Once that's done, we'll pull it off, let it rest, and then we'll slice it up. So we'll come back in a little bit and show you when it's probe tender. Be back in a few. Brisket's been on just under 8 hours. I'm getting an alert saying we're at about 195, 200 in that flat. I'm gonna go probe it with my instant read thermometer, and we're gonna see if it's probing really tender. So let's go probe this, see where we're at. So I like to just push it through the paper. It's like butter going through. 197 like butter. 201 in the point as well. 202 in the flat. This is probing nice and tender. We're gonna pull it off the grill, wrap it in a towel, put it in a cooler, and let it rest until it comes down to about 160 internal, and then we're gonna slice it. So that could be a few hours still. So we're gonna probably let it rest 3 to 4 hours before we slice it. We wanna make sure that everything breaks down nice and gets nice and tender and all those juices redistribute. Let's pull this off, throw it in the cooler, and we'll be back when it's time to slice and taste, which is the best part. Let's go. 11 hours later, this brisket's done. We've just let it rest for a few hours, about 3 hours in my cooler, wrapped in a towel. Let's take it out. You can still see that steam coming up off of here. You know it's gonna be nice and hot still. 3 hours later. A lot of times I'll let this go even longer, but it's getting late and I wanna cut into this. Get rid of your brisket towel. Now the biggest concern I had about this brisket with the FireDial is that it would get hard underneath from the direct heat basically, but I'm telling you, feeling underneath, this thing is soft and tender. Oh man, look at those juices still. Now I didn't add anything in here. I didn't add tallow, I didn't do anything. I wrapped it, put it in here. Look at this thing, man, oh man. This thing is perfect. Got the jiggle. Woo, woo. Alrighty. Nice and tender. Of course, you gotta get that juices pouring out shot there. Not sure if you can see it's getting dark out here now. Shoot, stuff's just streaming out of there. Same on this side, even more on this side. Man, look at that. All right, so we're just gonna give this some slices here. Now this is the flat side. Cut a little thick, but you can see how juicy that is. Pull apart. Now for the test, the taste test. Tender as can be. Great smoky flavor. Man, this is a great brisket. Great brisket. This is tender and juicy. This was a choice brisket. This wasn't even a prime brisket. I was really worried about that FireDial really drying this out. And I didn't even hit the juicy side here. Some of the best right here, right? Look at that. Man, oh man. There is a little extra flavor from that FireDial. I guarantee it. It's like a little grill flavor that's gotta be from the drippings hitting and imparting itself back into it, but you still have a great smoke ring. You got a great smoke flavor. It was cooked low and slow. I mean, it was cooked for 8-9 hours. Rested, beautiful. Hey, what can you say? FireDial works for briskets too. I thought it might have been just a ribs thing. Obviously not. This is fantastic. Try it out. Let me know if you have any questions. I appreciate y'all tuning in. If you like what we did here, hit that subscribe button, give me a like. Check us out on social media as well, and we'll talk to you all soon. Cheers, everybody. Peace.